Okay, everybody. Hello, it's 1:02. Nobody's actually joined the meeting, so I'm just going to record this, and this will be the first online Microsoft Chat online class for the Computer Science 30S course. I'm not going to have my webcam on the entire time, but thought you guys might want to see me a little bit. Casually dressed, as you can see, set up in my basement here. This is just going to show you. This is my basement room set up. Oh, that sounds like at least. Anyways. So yeah, this what I plan to do each week is one second. Is record these and have them available on the website afterwards for people to look at for tips. So what I'm going to do is switch from my camera over to sharing my screen at this point. This, by the way, is the first Microsoft Teams meeting that I've done. So I'm not sure how this is all going to work. Hopefully it works well. Okay, so what I've done here is gone directly to my website just to remind you guys some of the resources I've put up here. I've done this through email, but right on the main page, I always have all the main updates, right? So this included the Microsoft Team meeting update that I sent an email out yesterday, and instructions, because I'm sure not everyone had Microsoft Team installed. So just as a reminder for that, in here, this set of instructions show you how you can go to the Microsoft website, log in using your school account, and then you'll have access to lots of different programs, including downloading the entire version of Microsoft Office for your computer, or using Microsoft Outlook for email, or Microsoft Teams, like I'm using right now, in addition to others. So that's all there. And there's even some instructions on how to use Outlook if you really want to read through those. Now, I'm not here promoting Microsoft as well. At the back end of this document, I've also included some helpful tips for those of you like myself who often prefer things like Google Docs or Google Sheets. But in terms of meetings, since the school division is not really allowing us to use Zoom anymore, instead now I'm going to be using Microsoft Teams right here for this instead. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna go back to sharing my my screen with you guys. Okay. So that was that version of the software. Checking a few things. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to go to our course, the Computer Science 30S course. And on this page as well, I've included a bunch of stuff for you guys. Right at the top are some of the main links, right? Back to the main page if you need it. The resources page. Now, this is a big page that I've set up for everybody that has a ton of resources. Some advice from me on how to work from home, just some things I wrote up, some links to some external tips on working online, and why it's important that you guys continue learning, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so that was the first thing. Then this is sort of a combination of the stuff we used to have on, we still do have on our 30S course webpage. Down below, this was always there below, was the advice and help section. Now that was specific to the 30S course. On the resources page now, this advice and help section is really advice and help for all courses and all students in general. There's a lot of links there to all kinds of stuff. So for example, if you wanted to read my article, Why You Should Study Computer Science, if you have trouble completing assignments, you can read the presentation or watch the video. Advice on handing things in, okay? How to do work at home. Then there's specific stuff on NetBeans, alternative things other than NetBeans, Visual Studio, GitHub examples, etc. So there's tons of resources there in that section for help in getting started. Then this section, additional learning resources, isn't really links to my course, but all kinds of computer science learning resources, all kinds of different things that you could try online. This again will allow students who are having tons of technical problems with my content and my software to even stretch out beyond that, or even those students who really were bored at home and want to try some other stuff. This is all there for you. So tons of resources there. And then finally, just some general advice, mental health advice on the pandemic. I got this from my wife, who's a social worker, who got it from a psychologist. Some really good advice there. And then some really good links to the province of Manitoba and our school division and computer science links. So that's what this resources page has, is tons of those resources for you. Okay, so that's there right off our main website, is that resources page. Okay, I've updated all the assignments and presentations and stuff. So if you were to go to our regular assessments page, now it has every unit, from the methods unit and the arrays unit, which we had left off on, to the classes unit, to the graphics unit, which is not a unit that I normally assessed, and even the final project. Keep in mind, of course, that all unit tests are canceled. All assessments, including the final project, are modified, right? Everything's modified now at this point in your online learning. Okay, we just want your learning to keep going. There's no specific have-tos anymore, but we do want it to continue. So I did write a little part here about why I feel it's important that you should continue learning. You want to grow academically as a student. You don't want to take advantage, or you don't want to give up the advantage of having free public education. This is something that I think even I, and not only me, but my parents and even my grandparents, just sort of always assumed was there, free public education. But that's not the case around the world. That's not the case throughout history. So there are certainly places in the world suffering this pandemic where they're not getting any education at all. This one is probably the most pragmatic. You need to be prepared for the next level, okay? So if you're in grade 11 computer science and you're planning on taking my grade 12 computer science, or the IB computer science, or study computer science after high school, you don't want to start next school term feeling underprepared because of this pandemic. So that's why I want the learning to continue, so that you feel that you have continued and are at a better place. Okay, this next one's a little more of a mental health thing. By doing regular schoolwork, you're going to feel a little more normal. This is an unnormal time, so it's nice to feel a little normal. Create a little structure for yourself. Go to class. This is why I'm doing the online course as well, to kind of get that feeling. Just taking a quick look here, making sure nobody else has decided to join. They have not. So I'm just going to go back to my desktop. Okay. This one is still a little undefined. Expectation of our school division that we meet curricular standards. That's for sure. Like the fact is a school curriculum, a computer science curriculum, an IB curriculum, they're designed to give you a broad set of experiences in that subject area. If you're not continuing your learning, you're missing pieces of that. So you want to try to keep your learning going. And as well, this one, it could affect any kind of credit recovery and things like that. Now, this is, again, nothing that's really connected to any specifics at this point. I'd actually like to point out, I think it's on this main page. Put it somewhere on here. Maybe I put it on the resources page. I think I put it on the resources page. Just one sec. I'm just going to jump over to the resources page. Yeah, right here. I'd like to point out this paragraph that I wrote here. It was in the email I sent everyone. We need to be flexible in an unprecedented time. We need to understand that you have a lot of things going on. You have a lot of courses. This is important, not just for me, but for you to recognize from all your teachers. Maximum of 3 hours a week per course. I actually probably expect a lot less from you guys in my course. Well, not a lot, but an hour a week would be great. 2 hours would be better, okay? 3 hours would be the maximum. But there was a Free Press article about this as well that was just put up yesterday on the guidelines that teachers in Manitoba have for learning beyond in this sort of time. And it does sort of lay it out here. 5 hours a week for early years students, 10 hours a week for middle schoolers, and 3 hours per course for high school students. This is right in the Department of Education for Manitoba sort of guidelines. This is certainly down. If you think about what we normally would do in class, it's about 6 hours a week. If you count like 1 hour classes going 5 days a week, it's actually a little more than 1 hour, 5 days a week. It's actually 68 minutes, so that's almost 70 minutes. So multiply that by 5, you're looking at around 6 hours a week. Not quite. Plus, and then in a lot of subject areas, you have homework expectations. So it's certainly a lot more than 6 hours a week. So that's an option right there to think about. So that's what I was getting at with the section I wrote here about whether or not it can affect recovering credit. Your marks is not really something you should be worrying about. You're probably going to have a decent mark by the time I create a report card. What you should be worried about is making sure your learning continues. If you decide to not engage at all in a course, what I'm saying in this is there is a possibility there would be some sort of need to kind of recover credit. And the final point, it should be a lot of fun, right? Like, computer science is an option course. You took it for an option. You should still enjoy it. I then also added some links here and stuff like that, but let's go back to our page again. Computer Science 30S. So the advice, the tips. I think there was a few of you in the Computer Science 30S class that are now, because of software issues, planning to look at the alternative assignments that I created. So I want to take a second just to talk about that. That obviously, if you had issues running the software or issues with a computer, what I did was build a set of alternative assignments where all it requires is a web browser. Okay, it doesn't have to be on a Mac or a PC. It could even theoretically be done on some sort of tablet, although certainly typing would be challenging. But you can type the code right into this web browser page. Let me just show you what it looks like. So right here, and again, this is all in the instruction set there. And then you can switch over to Java. Okay, so here's a simple Hello World program, and I can just run that program. And it popped out right here. Just a simple like system.out.println type code. However, in order for this to work and adapt our assignments that way, all the inputs and outputs can't be visual anymore. We can't do J-option pane. If you were to move ahead to the graphics unit, you can't do these fancy J-frame things. So nothing visual anymore. So as a result, system.out.println works great. But now in order to do inputs, you're going to need to learn a way to do the inputs, and it's called the scanner class. So what I've done here under coding requirements is given a simple set of instructions on how to do the scanner class. Then I suggest you do this simple instruction or the simple example here, which takes you to the website, sets up a project, and then takes you through the code of a simple input-output type program where you enter strings, integers, and doubles, and then it outputs them. So that will give you a basic idea. And then what you can do is basically do substitutions on all the assignments. So in a regular 30S course, you would go to, say, for example, the arrays unit assignment. Say you wanted to do let's take you to some one like a little further in. This one where you do generated numbers, right? Obviously, you're not going to do this. This is not going to be something you can do because you can't do a dialog box, but you can spit this out on screen, okay? You similarly can't really do this because you can't create a yes/no dialog box, but you could ask them to type in yes or no and then do something with it, just as an example. And of course, I'm expecting you to modify these as much as you can. As long as you have the gist of the assignment down, that should work out for you. So that will allow you to do that. And instead of message dialog or input dialog, you use system.out.print or printline and scanner.nextline and stuff like that. And then there's a little blurb about handing it in. So that's for those who need to do the alternative assignments, okay? And by the way, this is one website that can do this. There are others. This is one that I've listed. There are certainly others that can also do this type of thing. Yeah, so, okay, so that's enough about that one. I know that was a small percentage of you that said that you were going to be exploring the alternative assignments. The next thing I want to talk about is weekly plans, okay? So what I've done is, again, this is right off the top of our page, just those main links there, that quick note about how everything's getting modified. And then, oh, excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. And now a weekly plan. So week 1 was last week, right? Week 1 was April 6th through the 10th, which would have been our week back from spring break, but it was also the week that we knew we were going to be closed. And now we're into week 2 right here, and we're obviously on April 14th right here. So what I've done is I've laid out a plan, with this being week 1 and this being week 2, next week being week 3, etc., all the way up to week 11, which would be the last week in June that we would have been in class, okay? So that's what I've done here with this week 1, week 2, etc. This does not match up with the stuff that was normally what we had back here, where week 1 was in February. The last week we had was week 7, March 16th to 20th, and then the school was closed. So although I could put week 8 here, what I've done is at the top, instead, I've just sort of gone week by week, 1, 2. You know what? I might end up changing these to the numbers that match up with what's below. I might. Anyways, last week, what I suggested you would continue your learning doing would be to try to complete the methods unit and try to start the arrays unit. This is kind of exactly where we were when the school closed. Okay, by this week, week 2, okay, I expect that you would be working in the arrays unit. That's where I would expect, okay? By next week, week 3, you'd still be working in the arrays unit, okay? By week 4, you should be trying to complete the arrays unit and starting the classes unit, etc. As we finish a week, I will put up, so you don't have to scroll all over my page, all the sort of relevant links as well. So if you were still working in the methods unit, you could find the folder of the entire methods unit content. So this is just a link to the folder where you have all the stuff here, or the individual links. Like you could look at the playlist for all the videos for the methods unit, like right here. So you could rewatch me teaching the lesson, or the actual direct link to the presentation, the notes for how to work with methods, or the example we did in class, and you were all there for that one, but here's an example of it in code, or the unit review sheet. And again, there's no test, but it might be nice just to have a quick summary there. And the assignment or the alternative assignments. And then I've done the exact same thing for the arrays unit right here, okay? The only thing, and I'm making a note of this as I'm talking about it, is I didn't put a link to the GitHub page, which I will put that in there. And then finally, I have a link here to the video of that week's video class. Obviously, last week when Zoom was restricted by the school division, I didn't make a video for the week. This week will be the one I'm recording right now in front of you guys. And I'll put the link to it after it finishes processing, hopefully later today. And I'll continue to do that week by week. And if we go back to school, then I'll rearrange the website. But this is what I'm providing for you guys. Okay? Okay. When school ended, the school closure. We had finished our methods unit. And I'm just going to open up GitHub here. And I'm just going to go to the actual example. So I haven't touched this example since the school closed. But here it is. This is right where we left off. So we certainly had our intro to Java content. I'm going to scroll through all of that. We had then done all of our methods content. Scroll through all of that. And we had yet to start the arrays unit. That unit, we did not start our example with that. So what I thought I would do with sort of the remainder of the class today is to actually start that arrays example. Now, I could certainly go through the PowerPoint slides as well, but I think if you guys really wanted to do that, if you really wanted to see me live go through the PowerPoint examples, then what I would suggest you would have done is probably gone to the videos, which is where I go through the arrays content. You should do that. You should watch the arrays videos. See if this is where, oh, it doesn't. So you could watch all those videos, okay? But instead of that, I thought what would be useful is for me to actually do the example in real time, actually update GitHub in real time. And then that way you guys would have that option there. What I have planned for next week during the arrays sort of discussion next week would be to also do a walkthrough on one of the programming problems. Again, the same way I would have done it in class. So that's an option for you, okay? So that's what I plan to do with you guys right now. Now, if you're working at home and you're thinking, oh, that might be good to follow, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remind you, I was going to do it, there we go. I'm going to remind you that what you can do from GitHub is you can get a copy of our class example by downloading the zip file, and you'll have it exactly. And you can do that before class online, after the fact. It's always going to be there for you. So what I'm going to do right now is open up the 30S example. Before I do that, I'm just going to make sure it is the latest version by pulling it off GitHub, just to make sure. I want to not get the latest version. And as that opens, there we go. And go back to main. Okay, so it's time. Arrays. We had done this when we did the Learn Methods unit before you learned what a method was. And we took all the code from Intro to Java and put it into a method. Then we commented it out because I didn't want that code to run anymore. I'm going to do the exact same thing with Learn Methods. I don't need to learn methods anymore. It's now time to learn arrays. I'm going to use this to create a method called Learn Arrays. I'm going to hold Control and jump to it where I can get started with this. Okay, so that's what I want to do to get started with this example of learning arrays. Okay, like I did very much when we learned methods, I started with a little output line that said, let's start learning methods. And I'm going to do that with arrays as well. Let's start learning arrays. Okay. And at the bottom of this, I'm going to say that we completed learning arrays. Start learning arrays, and then we've completed learning arrays. And all the code for the example will go in between. Okay. Run this. I take a look at my output, there it is. I started learning arrays. I've completed learning arrays. This is because back here in main, I've copied out learn methods, right? If I was to bring these two things back to life, now it's going to run all the code for all three of these things. So bear with me as I go through this, but right, here's the stuff from when we first learned programming in Java, all the dialog box examples. All the methods examples, and done. So there you'd see all the code in the outputs from all the way back when we first learned, right? Hello world, et cetera, all the way where we completed learning methods, and now we're starting to learn arrays, and then we'll complete learning arrays. So we're keeping our code organized. Our one example that we've been working on all year is still going here, and it's definitely something that we can continue to work on. Now, what I am going to do is kind of stop there for today's example. Okay, I just want you to kind of absorb that. This first online class, I wanted to kind of keep it short. What I'll probably do next week is then quickly punch through this entire example. So, and again, you don't have to wait for me. This entire example is available for you to look at online. But that way, during next week, we will go through the entire example during week 2, during the entire sort of 1-hour class. And then during week 3, we will go through an entire example, or pardon me, an entire programming problem in the 1-hour class. And then by week 4, we should have been completed arrays, and then we can move on to the classes unit. Okay, I just wanted to kind of go over all those options for everybody today. And I was hoping to keep this to about half an hour. I don't know if next week will be at half an hour or an hour. That's kind of why I wanted to kind of pause today. I want to have it all set up so I can work very quickly through the example and very quickly through the programming problem, a lot faster than I would have gone in class. I'm also going to do that so that during these online classes, you guys can stop me and ask questions if necessary. Okay? All right, everybody. I'm going to end the meeting now. And thanks for watching this video. And I do recommend you guys try to tune in if you can. And stay healthy. And please contact me if you have any questions. Bye, everybody.